Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another edition of Friday Night Live. Say that one more time. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another edition of Friday Night Live. On Friday, the 23rd of August, 2024. I'm your host, Abdul Akbar, beaming out to the good people of Luton and surrounding areas tonight, and also to the good people of Sheffield, Nottingham, Derby, and Peterborough through our partner stations across the nation. So welcome to all of you. We've got an action-packed show lined up for you this evening. For the next 2 hours, we're talking about GCSE results in a moment. We've got some wonderful guests. I'll be introducing them in a moment. Also, in half an hour time, we'll be talking about a situation when it comes to funerals, potentially longer waits coming in for those waiting for the bodies of deceased family members in Luton. We'll be talking to a number of special guests, including Councillor Muhammad Aslam Khan, Chishti Saab, MBE, who will be in the studio. And also we'll be talking to Brian Green, Chairman of Luton Synagogue, to see how it affects our friends in the Jewish faith. In an hour's time, we'll be talking about the Luton Peace Walk. You've heard that right, Luton Peace Walk, all on the back of the challenges we've had over the last few weeks with the far-right riots. A few special Lutonians have come forward in this part of the world and said, you know what, we're going to reverse that and have peace walks instead. We'll be joined by some of the organisers in around an hour's time, so can't wait to hear more about that. And we're also sadly talking about in an hour and a half's time, we'll be talking about the rape situation in India. And this is all on the back of a female doctor sadly being raped, gang raped once again in India. And we'll be asking what's the problem and why is rape and incidents of rape and frankly violence against women so high in that part of the world. I think India's got a lot to celebrate when it comes to claiming that it's the world's biggest democracy, but at the same time, I would say at what cost, especially when women are extremely fearful at going out. And even can you believe it? You're a hospital doctor and being attacked by vicious, vile men whilst you're on duty. So all that and more in an hour and a half's time. But this is Friday Night Live with me, Abdul Akbar. All right, so right now I want to go straight on to our main topic for this segment of the program for the next half an hour. And it is, of course, the GCSE results topic. And believe it or not, the GCSE results gap between the South and the rest of England has widened. This year's results reveal London as the highest performing region, with some 72.5% of entries graded at least 4 or a grade C, while the West Midlands is lowest, performing with a pass rate of just 63.1%. That's a massive 9.4 percentage point gap, which is up from 8.7 last year, meaning that, there is a lot of inequality still when it comes to GCSE grades, depending on where you live. And if you are living further up north in the UK, you're more likely to get lower grades in terms of your GCSEs than you are if you are down south. But where does that put places like Peterborough and Luton and parts of the Midlands? People who are tuning in tonight will be interested to know. I'm delighted to be welcoming a number of special guests on the program this evening. We are joined by Lorraine Hughes, who's the Deputy CEO of the Chiltern Trust, no stranger to this program, and delighted to welcome her on this program. We're also going to be joined by Haya Redwan, who's a senior leader at Al Hikmah Girls School, and she's playing a pivotal role in shaping the school's vision. And also we're joined by Sheba George, who's the head teacher at Cholney High School for Girls, a school that my wife actually went to and has done really well from her time there. So kudos to, I think probably Sheba's predecessor, but nonetheless, we'll speak to her in a bit. And then Rosina Butt, who's a senior leadership member at Denby High School as well. An all-star cast of folks from Luton who've got lots to say, I'm sure. Let me start off with Lorraine, if I may. Good evening, Lorraine. Thanks for joining us tonight on Friday Night Live.
Yeah, good evening.
Thanks. And Lorraine, your reactions to some of the results that came out from the Chiltern Trust. I understand the Chiltern Trust actually manages a number of high schools in the region. How did you do? How did your schools do in comparison to the national average? And do you think it's true that there is a north-south divide in terms of levels and outcomes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really privileged that I work with fantastic teachers, leaders, parents, and the young people, because our results are stunning. They're way above national average. In fact, some of our schools have got the best ever results, which, given the fact that this current year group were the year sevens that went into lockdown after being in year seven only 6 months, then they've had to suffer another lockdown. Then they've had teacher strikes. Some schools, not including ours, have had RAC and all of the problems with the ceilings and the structures and so on. I mean, they've been a really affected year group. And yet, within Chiltern, they have done phenomenally well. And I do think that's about communities coming together and supporting the young people. And there's undoubtedly a north-south divide. And I do think that's linked to all the indices and deprivation that sadly still exists between the north and south. And I do hope that this government are going to actually address that.
That's interesting, and congratulations on what sounds like outstanding results for the Children Trust there. Amazing stuff. Sheba George, let me go to you, head teacher at Cholney High School for Girls. Delighted to welcome you on this program, I think for the first time as well. So I've heard so many good things about your school, but tell me, Sheba, what advice do you have for members of your staff, the teachers in your staff, when it comes to making sure that the children in your school get the very best education so they don't fall foul of that north-south divide that we've been seeing statistically from Ofqual? The numbers say a lot, and I think Bedfordshire overall is negative, I think 6% compared to national average. How are you ensuring that you stay ahead of the curve?
First of all, thank you very much for having me. Delighted. I think our focus at our school is, as long as we put the girls at the absolute center of everything we do, then the results and the attainment will come. It's making sure that what we teach, the curriculum we teach, but also the pastoral care that we have in place is absolutely centered on the girls. Pastoral care is absolutely vital if things like the curriculum and how it's taught is actually going to be effective. And our teachers have that at the absolute base of everything that they do.
That's awesome. And how did you do overall in your results, if I may ask?
We are delighted with the girls' achievements. It really reflects the hard work that they have put in over the last 5 years. As Lorraine said, this year group, they had one term before the pandemic. And since then, so many other things have fallen into place, which have, acted as, I guess, sort of challenges for them. But it reflects their hard work. It reflects the hard work of their teachers. But also, we see them at school, but we know that the families at home as well, nurture and encourage them on. And so it's really important to acknowledge the work that families do as well.
Definitely. And we'll come back to both of you in a moment, because I'd love to know why there's such a difference between the A-level results we saw and the GCSE results, because I think in general terms, A-level result attainment has actually gone up, whereas GCSE result attainment, especially in maths and English, which are, the core subjects, have actually gone down. So I'd be curious to know your take on that. I'll come back to you in a moment, though. Let me get in Rosina Butt, who's senior leadership at Denby High School. Rosina, what's the latest at Denby? How did you guys do in your GCSE results?
Hi there, Assalamualaikum. Yeah, we were really proud of our students. I'm actually ahead of year. I've been ahead of year for 4 years now. And my year group basically achieved 60% of my year group achieved 95s in their grades for English and maths. So it was up by 12%. Wow. So you can appreciate it's, it's really, we're really proud of our students.
What's the secret, Rosina?
Just hard work and grit, really. Like I said, and it's just that pastoral care, that wraparound care. We have lots of interventions in the morning, lunchtime, and after school, and it's just that sheer determination by all the members of staff, really, to be able to give all that sort of commitment to our students to ensure they get the best grades possible.
That's amazing, and I'll come back to you as well. But I'd love to know about the value add that schools are providing in Luton. I think the government has this value add score. You guys don't know this, but I used to be a teacher as well. I'm a qualified IT teacher from back in the day, but I couldn't hack it. Unlike you guys, I couldn't hack it, and I jumped out into industry. But I can't wait to go back in the future. I might be knocking on your door, Shiva, in the future and asking for a job. So look out for me. I'm kidding.
I'm making a note of that.
If you ever need a science teacher in the future. But let me go to another amazing guest we've got on the line, and that's Haya Redwan, Senior Leader Al Hikmah School. Haya, thanks for joining us. I think your name is H on my title here, but we'll call you Haya for the purposes of this conversation. How did it go at Al Hikmah School? You're a girls' school with a religious ethos. Is that correct? With a focus on religion.
Alaikum. Hello, everybody. Yes, we are. We're an Islamic girls' school, but we also teach, obviously, national curriculum. So we've been part of this GCSE grades day yesterday, results day yesterday. So yes, we do both. Yeah, and mashallah, we've done really well. We've got 84%.
Wow.
For stars to see. So we've done really, really well. Yes, really proud of the girls.
Amazing. Yeah, and Haya, how did it work out? How do you kind of balance the Islamic curriculum that you provide, which I know is very important to a lot of parents in Luton and surrounding areas, and also, as you mentioned, the national curriculum as well, and getting a really high attainment? How do you balance that and get through everyone through it successfully?
It's balanced as 50%. So it's 50% Islamic studies, 50% national curriculum. So one curriculum doesn't take more precedence over the other one. And they're both quite equal. And the girls actually, because it's a way of life, they don't see it as two separate curriculums. They actually see it as intertwined together. So they don't study like two separate schools under one roof. They study one, one full day of timetable. So it is very different from mainstream schools. But really, really proud of the girls.
Congratulations to everyone at Al Hikmah Girls School. Amazing stuff. Let me take it back to a round of applause there from Lorraine. Thank you, Lorraine. Absolute virtual round of applause here as well. But Lorraine, let me go back to you. So Lorraine is the Deputy CEO of the Chiltern Trust. Of course, I know someone like you, Lorraine, who has very high expectations, will not be satisfied until you get that 100%. Everyone gets a great grade. I'm sure, but it's not always possible. But what do you reckon remains to be done? There's always room for improvement in terms of making sure that Luton is at the very top and the Chiltern Trust schools are the very top of the league tables. What do you think needs to happen? If you had an unlimited budget, what would you change?
So I don't want to talk about unpublished results quite yet, but I know people have faced challenges this year, but overall, I reckon our progress for our Luton schools is about half a grade higher than what would be expected on average, which is phenomenal across all subjects.
And that's the value add.
That's the value add, yeah, 0.5. The English results are ridiculous. I don't want to quote them, but we've got something in the region of 80% of our girls and boys leaving with a grade 5 and above in English. And not everyone will achieve that, and that's okay, as long as they're still getting, like we just said, really good progress. So what would I do? To be honest, I think that our maths is really good. It's really solid. It's above average, but perhaps we've got a bit more work to do in maths than we have English. But actually, if you look at the effect of the pandemic, that impacted on maths more than English. We came back from COVID thinking that children's reading and writing would suffer more, but actually it's been the maths, and we've seen that in primary school results right through to post-16. So we've got work to do to help them fill those gaps. If I had an unlimited budget, I'd have a load of maths teachers. And, if we go back to that north-south divide question and why some schools are struggling, teaching has become not really, I think it's the best job in the world, but not everyone likes it anymore. The post-pandemic generation of students, they want to work from home. They want to go to the gym at 10 o'clock. Teaching ain't conducive to that. So these are real struggles that we're facing at the moment. If you haven't got a great teacher in front of you, you can't get those results.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I was looking at the teachers' pay scale from the government as well. And we've seen the new Labour government, meeting the demands of GPs, of junior doctors. We saw the Conservatives make a deal with the consultants. We've seen recently, just yesterday, a deal being offered to nurses. Do you feel that teachers should also be included in that above inflation pay rise more than what the Conservatives might offer?
Yeah, really, they have been. We have had there has been an agreed pay rise again, which is very impressive and representative of what teachers deserve. So I think that a lot of the sound bites and a lot of the noise coming out of government at the moment is really good. Whether it comes to fruition, I don't know, but it feels very positive. So
Okay.
we'll have to see what happens. But it's not just about the money.
Yeah.
It's about demonstrating what a wonderful job it is. I mean, Rosina couldn't be more proud, could she? And like,
No,
those children are like our own. But that's not celebrated enough. People don't understand how rewarding it actually really is. Even when you get to deputy CEO or in the future CEO, you still love seeing those children achieve what they achieve.
Yeah, it's massive. Absolutely. Let me go back to Sheba George, who's the head teacher at Cholney High School for Girls. Sheba, I mentioned earlier about some of the differences in trends that we're seeing between A levels and GCSEs. What would you put those differences down to? Because overall GCSEs nationally are kind of trending down or flat, whereas A levels have actually gone above where they were last year. Sheba, what would you put that down to?
Hi, sorry, I've had to just switch off my camera because my internet isn't brilliant.
That's all right.
Obviously, we're 11 to 16 schools, so we don't have A levels. But obviously, I think the results are probably coming closer to pre-pandemic. There hasn't been necessarily an inflation of grades, but they are coming closer. And the students in the last 2 years, they haven't had that kind of COVID experience as much as, let's say, the impact that it's been had on the students who've done their GCSEs, who've been impacted over the 5 years. Students are working hard and teachers are working hard to ensure that we can get those students back to those pre-pandemic grades.
Absolutely. And let me ask you quickly about recruitment as well, Sheba, because obviously a school like yours, I think a while back when I checked your Ofsted results, at least the last time I checked, it was outstanding from an Ofsted point of view, which is amazing. So congratulations there.
Thank you.
And I know how hard it is to achieve an outstanding result from Ofsted because like them or loathe them, that is the way we kind of gauge the quality of a school. And I know head teachers like yourself don't often take to that positively, but when you do get that outstanding, I know it's well earned and certainly well deserved, though some would argue it's not a very fair system and it is quite subjective as well, depending on the group of inspectors you get, how you kick off rapport with them, and there's a lot of psychological aspects as well. But let's assume that, well, let's not assume, it's the fact, that's the system in place. But Sheba, how are you attracting talent to your school, and how are you making sure that your students get the very best teaching staff?
I guess I'll sort of echo what Lorraine said before. We need to get more and more teachers into schools, and like Lorraine saying, we'd love to have loads more maths teachers. I think it's about making sure that the school community is one that not just students want to be in, but actually our staff want to be in as well. And I think that we have a wonderful school community where there's a real soul to the school, there's a real purpose to the school, and there's a real care, not just for students, but for the staff as well. And I think once staff step into the building, they can feel that. It's not something that you can talk about it and you can explain it to people, but once you step into the building, you feel it. And I think that's really something that's really important. So if we can get people into the building, they see what it's like to work at Cholney High School for Girls.
Oh, nicely said. That's definitely pulled me in. So nice one, Sheba. You've done that, I can tell. But let me go to Rosina. Rosina Butt, who's member of the senior leadership team at Denby High School. Rosina, you talked about pastoral care earlier, and I agree with you in that I think a child feeling like they belong in a school, and the inclusion part of a school where a child can, if they decide to wear a headscarf to school, they can do that and they feel like that's okay. Or if they decide they want to pray, as long as it's not disruptive to lessons or the conduciveness of the school, they can do that. There are schools out there, namely one in Wembley that I can think of, that isn't very forthcoming to cultures and religions and allowing people to be themselves at school and be comfortable. How important is that to the teaching staff at Denby High, and how does that play a part in the way you run your school?
Well, to be honest with you, just very recent. Well, at Denby we are obviously very inclusive. 90% of our students do come from a certain one faith, really. But when it comes to those sort of things, we have a designated area. We have a prayer room, and quite recently opened up a large prayer room for both students and staff, which it just gives that sort of element of extra care. When it comes to pastoral, I mean, after 4 or 5 years of working in the pastoral team, which is a really strong team in the trust, you find that a child needs to feel safe where they go, and needs to feel that they can practice their religion. Whether it's Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, it doesn't matter. As long as you are given the opportunity to practice that faith and you're supported by members of staff, then there's no reason why, like Denby does, it supports every faith, and it's important for every student to feel included. And yes, there are schools in the vicinity that probably aren't doing as well as they should do when it comes to inclusion. But at Denby, we work really hard to include all our students.
Very interesting. And I would say that Luton is a special place in that, the majority of, in many schools in Luton, the majority faith group are Muslims. You go outside of Luton, the reverse is true. And I think in a similar way, I would argue that where you have a majority kind of Christian cohort, they should be learning about Islam. It's very important. And I'm sure you agree with this, that if it's a majority Muslim school, they should learn about other faiths as well and learn to understand that actually there are other faiths, respect them. Lorraine, you want to come in? Go on.
Yeah, just to say they really do. I mean, I won't comment on a specific school, and I know we're Luton focused tonight, but we've got schools in other, let's take Bedford for example. We've got schools in Bedford where Islam is not the predominant faith, but they still have a prayer room. They still have a prayer space that opens at lunchtime and it's a multi-faith room. And genuinely, children from multiple faiths go and reflect and pray, and it's beautiful. So, and they do learn in the curriculum about different faiths. So that really does happen.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I just wanted to add as well, because I'm an RE teacher. As part of our curriculum, we look into two religions, and that's Islam and Christianity. So and it's compulsory to study RE at Denby. And our students are well versed on different religions, and we're building that link in the community. We're working with our local church, Father Luke, who comes in and talks and gives sort of guest speeches to our students. And it's really important to have that sort of respect of any other religion in our community. Definitely.
Massive respect. And absolutely. And I would argue, I'm glad you didn't use the word tolerance, but you used the word respect. Tolerant, I really don't like that word. It means you don't like it, but you just tolerate it, right? And you don't respect it, but you're going to tolerate it. And I think that's really powerful. Let me go back to Haya for the last words, who's senior leader at Al Hikmah Girls School. Haya, your reactions to what we've just been talking about?
It's actually really, really wonderful to hear all these different things that schools are doing to help students. We just want to put it out there as well that we do actually do RE, and we just don't do one or two religions. We actually look at a number of Dharmic and non-Dharmic religions as well. So we look at Abrahamic religions. So we look at Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. But we also look at Dharmic religions as well. And it's important for all students and across the country to understand and respect other people and other people's ways of how they go about every day. And if you haven't taught them that, they're not going to know. And with COVID, like a lot of the other leaders have mentioned, things have had to give. They've had to sort of take out certain things in order to catch up with English, maths and science. And it's just really, really great to hear how much pastoral work's going in. But just to sort of put it there, that faith schools aren't just teaching just one faith. We actually teach a number of different, we take lots of opportunity to teach lots of things. And we do things as and when we need to as well. So we've had Holocaust survivors come in, families come in of Holocaust victims to talk to the girls about what that was like and how their family's journey was like. And those sorts of things. And I think it's really, really important for all children to be able to, not like you said, not to use the word tolerant, because again, it's not about tolerating, it's about respecting each other, and you can't respect each other if you don't know about each other's backgrounds. So
amazing. Thank you for that, Haya. And I want to point out as well that all the guests that we've had on this segment are all women as well, which is another testament to the great progress we're making as well in the teaching profession, but also in Luton. So congratulations. And thank you for joining us on this program and covering your GCSE results. Keep up the awesome work, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Okay. Listeners, this is Friday Night Live with me, Abdul Akbar, and Zafar Iqbal Saab. We're going to be taking a very short break, but stay tuned. We'll be talking about funerals next and how they're changing. Stay tuned. Friday Night Live. We'll be right back.
Assalamu alaikum. In Luton and its surrounding areas, it is now time for Salat al-Asr.
लुटन और इसके मसाफात में नमाज असर का वक्त हुआ चाहता है.
This azan has been sponsored by Ideal Properties. Contact us on 01582 72 1110 or log on to www.idealpropertiesltd.co.uk.
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه المقاما محمودا الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
Would you like to sponsor the azan? If so, give us a call on 01582 481810 or email us on info@inspirefm.org.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 6:30.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to part 2 of tonight's edition of Friday Night Live with me, Abdul Akbar and Zafar Iqbal Saab. You are tuned into Inspire FM 105.1 FM if you're listening to us from Luton and surrounding areas tonight. And you're also tuned in to Friday Night Live, of course, and we're beaming out to the good people of Sheffield, Nottingham, Derby and Peterborough through our partner stations across the nation. So welcome to all of you. We've had a wonderful conversation with wonderful teaching staff from, I've never had the head teacher of Cholney Girls High School. I don't think I've said that properly, but amazing attainment for GCSE results, at least in Luton.
Absolutely. I think some of us are doing very well.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to comment on one of the things that I shared a couple of days ago. And, you know, I've been a governor at schools for many years as well, and I've sort of been party to sort of statistics and how communities are doing. So the statistic basically said that Chinese have always been at top of the league, basically, in terms of attainment, etc.
Yeah.
Usually Indian community follows afterwards. Now the Bangladeshi community is now third.
Mm-hmm.
And going back 10, 15 years ago, the Bangladeshi community was probably second or third from the bottom.
Yeah.
So there has been some tremendous amount of work that's been done in the community, and there's some lessons to be learned on how that particular community have actually sort of progressed, I guess, through the ranks.
Yeah.
I think Pakistani community has stayed fairly static. I think probably gone down a little bit.
It is interesting that
I wanted to bring that angle into it. So obviously there are.
Yeah. You always want to bring a negative angle, bring a positive angle in.
This is a factual reality check.
No, it's not. Joking. I'm messing. But look, I want to also call out people who didn't do so well in their GCSEs.
Yes.
Because there is life after GCSEs.
Correct.
If you didn't do so well in your GCSEs, or your child or sibling didn't do so well, there's lots of positive things that you can do to recover from that. It's not the end of the world. Life doesn't end.
It was actually quite positive, actually. I was actually congratulating the Bangladeshi community for climbing up the ladder, basically. Yeah. So it wasn't negative. It wasn't intended to be negative.
Okay. No, I know you're not, and it's amazing that some great attainment has been made. Anyway, let's go on to our next topic, because I want to talk about this really interesting topic about potentially. Zafar Saab, in the Luton area, and of course there are other areas as well that this could affect as well eventually. But it looks like I know I was at a funeral today, and I know at least 3 people in this room, including me, were at a funeral today. Zafar Saab, and you were at the gathering as well.
I was there at the funeral as well today.
You were there, and someone great passed away in the community. He was a great man. I would call him a pioneer. His name was Chaudhry Jalaluddin, and this man was a pioneer. He's one of the first people to arrive in Luton in 1961, and I've never seen Central Mosque of Luton so full. Upstairs, downstairs, the basement, outside. This mosque was full, and this is the biggest mosque in Luton. And they had all turned out not just for the Friday prayers, but they had turned out for this man and the contribution he had made. But what's interesting is he passed away yesterday in hospital, and we had his funeral today. And that's a great blessing, because often that's not the case, right? When people pass away, the body is not released for quite a long time. But we could be in a situation where there's longer waits possibly coming in, where dead bodies of deceased people, and not necessarily Muslims, this could be anyone who just dies in Luton. It could be somebody from the Jewish faith, the Christian faith, Muslim faith, Hindu faith, whatever, Sikh faith, insert faith group or non-faith group here. They may have to wait longer to release the bodies. And we know that releasing a body is quite important in some faiths, especially in the Islamic and Jewish faith. We need to release the body ASAP so that we can put them to rest. Listeners, I'm delighted to welcome into the studio to talk about this topic Councillor Muhammad Aslam Khan, who's a councillor for the Poets Ward and leader of the Conservative Opposition Group in Luton. Assalamu alaikum, Councillor.
Walaikum assalam.
Great to have you here again.
No, thank you for inviting me.
I'm not going to remind you the last time you were on this show, but it's great to have you here.
Yeah, sure.
As leader this time, mashallah.
Yeah.
How's that going? How's leadership going?
Yeah, very good. I'm quite enjoying the role. It's obviously a different role to a deputy leader, but it's certainly holding others to account. And
you look more stressed than you were.
Oh, not really. No.
Stressed.
I'm enjoying myself. Really, it's really providing solutions.
Mashallah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. And we also have another pillar of the community here as well. We have Chishti Saab, MBE, also at the funeral today, mashallah. I got to say, Chishti Saab gave a beautiful dua. And I love the way you, Chishti Saab, you were at the grave, at the head of the grave, and you're reminding, our blessed brother, uncle, Bilkul, you were Talqeen, and you were reminding. I was there. I was standing behind you. Yeah, so I was wearing different clothes though, so that's why. But I was there behind you, and it's beautiful, and so many people turned out to that as well, mashallah. But Chishti Saab, you've been a pillar of this community when it comes to funerals as well. I would say there's nobody closer to this aspect of the work in the community than you, mashallah. So looking forward to hearing from you as well. और उर्दू में बात कर सकते हैं इंशाल्लाह.
अभी जो आप बात कर रहे थे चौधरी जलालुद्दीन साहब के हवाले से
जी.
Luckily I was in hospital
जी.
and I have dealt this death.
माशाल्लाह.
जिस वक्त उनका इंतकाल हुआ तो मैं वहाँ अस्पताल में मौजूद था और उस वक्त मैंने you can say it was at 3:30 and then I spoke to the consultant.
Afternoon में. Afternoon. जी.
Yesterday.
जी.
तो 3:30 बजे उनकी डेथ हुई है तकरीबन.
ठीक है.
तो उस वक्त मैं वहाँ मौजूद था. मैंने कंसल्टेंट से उस वक्त बात की, ब्रीमेंट अफसर से बात की और तमाम अरेंजमेंट हो गई थी. जब मैं घर पहुंचा तो मेडिकल एग्जामिनर का टेलीफोन आया.
अच्छा. और
उसने बताया कि everything is done and you can get the registration tomorrow first thing in the morning. And after an hour, I got a call from the registrar office.
Yeah.
And they confirmed that we have got the appointment at 10:15 tomorrow. You can come and register the death.
That's the Chishti Saab's magic touch, mashallah.
Absolutely.
It's a blessing to have you.
Undeniable magic touch.
Without doubt. Thank you, Chishti Saab.
It is my honor that I'm serving to the community.
Thank you so much for that. And also, I want to mention, listeners, aside from my wonderful two guests that I've mentioned so far, we've also got another first-timer on this program. We're joined by Brian Green, who is the chairman of the Luton Synagogue. Delighted to welcome you on the program, Brian.
Thank you very much.
Should I say shalom? Does that work?
Thank you. Shabbat shalom.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I think you're the first, I've got to say, first Jewish person we've actually had,
we've had
the pleasure of on this program. That's true. We've had a few people actually, but not in the studio from my recollection.
In the studio.
All right, I stand corrected.
Okay.
You're not the first Jewish
I'm
person. Sorry, you don't have that record.
My pleasure to be here, just the same.
But tell us about the Jewish community in Luton, Brian, because you've been around for a long time, right?
A long time now. Yes.
And people might not know, but the Jewish and Muslim community have been working together for a while as well. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, the first thing to say is there's been a Jewish community in Luton for about 125 years,
wow,
which surprises many people. It's nowhere near as big now as it used to be. We're now down to about 60 people, but we still hold regular services in our synagogue in Dunstable Road. We have worked very closely with all communities in Luton via Luton Council of Faiths, and I'm really pleased that Luton Council of Faiths are very active and very, very good. I'm proud to be associated with them. I'm not sure there's much more I can say about that.
That's all right.
Now.
But tell me a bit about when somebody passes away in the Jewish faith. Is it like the Islamic faith where you try to bury the deceased as soon as possible?
Oh, very much so, yes. We try to bury somebody within 24 hours, exactly the same. And of course, we run into problems because it always happens that somebody dies late Friday afternoon. And then,
which is Shabbat time, right? As well,
there's the Sabbath, yes, and that's the first problem we have. But the other problems are local. The doctor that was in attendance has now gone off duty. They're not coming back until Monday. If we get somebody to sign off the certificate of death, it becomes there's no registrar to go to, and the whole thing gets dragged out, and we're lucky if it gets done by Tuesday.
Wow, yeah.
And it's caused many problems.
And I'm sure lots of people, I can see Jishti Saab listening and nodding his head because he's familiar with that scenario as well.
Yeah.
Maybe the Jewish community should use Jishti Saab as well to release the bodies.
Absolutely.
ये बता रहे हैं ना
जी जी
एक में मौला कायनात हज़रत अली शेर खुदा रज़ी अल्लाह ताला ने एक कौल अर्ज करना चाहता हूं
जी जी
वो फरमाते हैं कि 3 काम में देर ना करो
जी
जब नमाज का वक्त हो जाए तो फौरन अदा करो और जब औरत बेवा का कुफ मिल जाए तो उसका निकाह करो और जब जनाजा तैयार हो जाए तो उसे तदफीन करो इस्लाम की ये टीचिंग है.
There you go. Yeah, so just to translate,
I'm indulging your the same way.
Yeah, so there's 3 things you shouldn't delay for a human, and one of them is the burial, as what he's saying, saying of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Let me go back to you, Councillor Aslam Khan Sahab. Tell us about the situation we're in now, because we're talking about the potential for bodies to be delayed and no longer released as fast as they used to be. What's going on here? Give us the background here.
Let me just give you a bit of a background about Luton in particular and why it's so unique.
Okay.
My parents passed away. My mother passed away in 2007. Mr. Chisti was beside me. It was a very painful process. It took us about 3 days to release the body. And on an average, that's how long it used to take, 3 to 5 days. So that was my call for action. And I became solely councillor to help to resolve this. And I took on the chair of scrutiny at the time, led the death and burial review. And that included the Jewish community.
Yes.
I actually got an expert from Manchester to come over to give evidence, as well as your colleagues from London.
Yes.
And I had in-depth experience of pharmaceutical industry, and I had a relationship with the doctors, and being a councillor, obviously knowing the council services and processes, it was complex. This is a multi-function, multi-component service which needed to be integrated. So alhamdulillah, I led that review. We passed 20 recommendations, and that also included education for the doctors, education for our funeral directors, and education for the public.
Amazing. How long ago was that roughly?
That was 2011.
2011,
and so
14, 13 years ago.
Absolutely. So at one time, I mean, even the coroner office used to be overwhelmed because 10 relatives used to call. And we used to have only one burial service, which again didn't prioritize the deaths, whether it was Jewish or Muslims. But we had to then.
So it got better.
It got better. We got 4 or 5 funeral services now, and Mr. Chisti from the very start had always special arrangement.
Well, what's going on now, though?
What you have now is another layer to reach to the coroner. So you will have this medical examiner who will at almost every time have to scrutinize the death. In the past, if someone died in the community, if they had comorbidity or they had illnesses and they were it was known that death was near, then simply a GP would give you a death certificate.
You have a medical cause of death. Right? Yeah.
So once you establish a cause of death, then, or if the emergency services are called, if the person ends up in the hospital, then you have the junior doctors. At that time, there was a misconception that only a senior doctor could issue a death certificate. But I challenge that, because there was nowhere in the book or in the law it said the senior doctor. It could be any healthcare professional.
Truth is, no one wants to take liability.
Absolutely,
right?
but we resolved that. Resolved that, and here is another opportunity. Is that again in the primary care? Now the role of the GP has changed. The role of the nurses has changed. There is no reason why a senior nurse who does all the clinical work, does prescribing, cannot issue a death certificate. That's something I think that we have an opportunity to look at that, which will free up more resource. Secondly, a pathologist, we need to scrutinize this properly.
Sure.
We need to understand how many people will be allocated to the whole ICS. So ICS is Bedford, Milton Keynes and Luton. At the moment, we have a shared coroner, again, who serves Luton, Bedford and Milton Keynes. So we need to understand that how much resources is going to be allocated for this area. So
is there one ME for all the area as well? Or?
This is not determined yet. So what we're told that there's another layer now. So you will have
right now, because just I mentioned that medical examiner called you yesterday, right?
जैसे कि राय साहब ने बताया ना आपको, अब ये बहुत बड़ी सहूलत हमारे पास वाहिद ये लुटन ऐसा टाउन है
जी
जिसमें अगर कोई डेथ हो जाए तो सेम डे अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह हम सब कुछ रिकॉग्नाइज कर लेते हैं। अब जो नया सिस्टम आया है इसमें एग्जामिनर इन्वॉल्व हो गया है। जितनी भी डेथ पहले हॉस्पिटल में होती थी फ्रॉम लास्ट 1 year examiner is involved over there.
Wow.
But other than hospital there was no examiner.
Okay.
Apart from this, the GP issued the certificate, death is registered, end of the story.
Okay.
और हम इस लिहाज से भी बहुत खुशकिस्मत हैं कि रजिस्ट्रार की हमें 7 days सहूलत मौजूद है।
Wow.
अब जो थोड़ा सा मसला हमें आ रहा है वो ये है कि सैटरडे संडे रजिस्ट्रार जो है वो 9 to 11 अवेलेबल है। उसके बाद आपको वो वहाँ अवेलेबल नहीं होगी। एग्जामिनर जो है वो ये टाइम जो दे रहे हैं वो कहते हैं कि बाय 9 o'clock if I received all paper from GP then I'll be able to do it
on the weekend.
On the weekend. अगर ना मिले ड्यूरिंग वीक तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है
जी।
लेकिन वीकेंड पर अगर 9:30 तक लेटेस्ट मेरे पास इंफॉर्मेशन ना पहुंची तो फिर मैं ये अरेंज नहीं कर सकूंगा। अब हमारी ये कोशिश है अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, जैसे काउंसलर राजा साहब ने बताया है कि काउंसिल के साथ हमारी बहुत क्लोज रिलेशनशिप है and they are very helpful. Hospital health authority is very helpful and we are very lucky the local coroner officer is 24 hour available with us. ये सब कम्युनिटी की साथ मेहनत करने कोशिश करने से अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह ताला हमें अल्लाह ताला ने कामयाबी दी है। अब जो डिफिकल्टी ये आ रही है कि अगर 9:30 तक एग्जामिनर के पास रिपोर्ट नहीं पहुंचती है तो उसका मतलब है कि हम वीकेंड को छोड़कर मंडे पे चलेंगे। तो हमारी ये कोशिश होगी कि काउंसिल के साथ, हॉस्पिटल के साथ और तमाम अथॉरिटी के साथ हम ये कोशिश करके वक्त का तयन कर ले या तो रजिस्ट्रार थोड़ा सा उस टाइम को आगे ले जाए, अपार्ट फ्रॉम 9 to 11 वो 10 से 12 कर ले, फिर हम उसके अंदर जो है वो अकोमोडेट कर लेंगे।
That makes sense. And Councillor, I'll come to you in a second, but let me go to Brian Green, who's the chairman of the Luton Synagogue. So Brian, it sounds like all the facilities, like the registrar is available on the weekends between 9 and 11, but the medical examiner is saying that they need all the information by 9 a.m. if they are to action something on the weekend. How much of an impact would that be for your community?
Well, it's the same problem. In fact, it's interesting to note that we have tried to contact the registrars over the weekend and have always failed.
Really?
We've always had a problem there. So it's been a problem, not just getting the death or the certificate of death organised, it's getting to the registrar, and we've always had a problem with that. My understanding in talking to the Jewish Burial Society yesterday is that this new legislation says the ME will pronounce or give the certificate of death and will send the paperwork to the registrar, who should be open for 2 hours every day on a Saturday, Sunday and bank holidays. And in turn, they will then issue the green form directly to the funeral director.
A green form in the burial form?
But the burial form, which releases the body. Now, if that is the case and it works as smoothly as that, that would be absolutely fantastic.
It is like that. It is the practice.
All right.
It is normal practice. They send by email to us the green certificate, not death certificate. You can say green certificate means burial order. Sometimes the coroner officer issues and sometimes the registrar office.
Makes sense. Councillor, so it sounds like we need to put pressure on the medical examiner, the ME, to be more flexible and line up with the registrar timing and not just be limited to 9 a.m. on a Saturday.
That's right. I think, first of all, they need to understand the local population. They need to understand the local needs and local practice. Don't forget, we are ahead of everyone else. Luton service is envy of the rest of the country. So, and we have allocated resources, particularly to deliver that service, like Qazi Sahab said. So we need to make sure, and this is my, going back to what I said, we need to understand how many medical examiners are there within the ICS, because don't forget.
What's the ICS again?
So it's integrated care system.
Okay.
So which makes up of Luton, Bedford and Milton Keynes.
Right.
So if there's one allocated to Luton, so my question is, why are you insisting of just having the paperwork 9 o'clock? Why not extend that timing? So
why not match on to the registration
exactly. Why not
timing,
align to the registrar,
Right.
registrar's timing? So that's why we need to understand how many medical examiners are allocated for this ICS, or is it per CCG? And if not, then we need to start looking at those arrangements and scrutinizing those processes.
So it sounds like Chishti Saab is quite rightly mentioning this is something that we want to leverage the council, Luton Borough Council, whom there's a great relationship
yes,
already.
I've spoken to the leader of the council.
Okay. Hazel.
Yesterday.
Hazel Simmons.
I spoke to Hazel,
Gee.
and she's very cooperative.
Okay.
She said she will speak with the registrar and the council, and we will try to arrange the time. But we are required the meeting.
And council,
but the medical examiner will be under the authority of the ICS.
Do you reckon it's a question of money? Are they basically saying in code, give us more money so that we can pay the ME to work an extra couple of hours? Is that what it could come down to?
It may well be. I mean, it seems like that medical examiner is already working at the weekend anyway. If he's saying that,
national government authority, not local.
Okay.
It looks like that the intention is to simplify the process, but at the same time make sure that there's no sort of those cases that we've heard, like the doctor up north, where we had certain cases where a death wasn't picked up and it was scrutinized later, which led to court and so forth. So it's really looking at making things more transparent, but at the same time, what we need to understand is that this change needs to be reflective of the local population, reflective of the current service that is existing, and also aligning with everything else.
Reflective of the needs of the local population, right? As well,
absolutely.
including the Jewish community.
Very much so, yes. Yeah. There is no difference between the two communities in this aspect. It's exactly the same.
I mean, there's only 60 of you, so that can't be a massive demand from the Jewish community in Luton, right? There's not a huge number.
There's not a lot.
I mean, compared to the Muslim community, it's tiny, right?
Absolutely. The problem we do have, as already said, is that it will happen on a Friday, late Friday afternoon and over the weekend. And
you're in trouble.
Every single time.
Makes sense.
I'm just going to say, just step back a little bit. So the reason we're having this discussion is that central government have introduced new legislation, right?
Yeah.
And the new legislation is meant to deal with a problem, and the problem is what? What is the problem?
Well, there's Dr. Shipman case which was national
it's
news.
The ME in the middle. That's the problem. The layer, the extra layer in the middle.
So this is an extra layer to make sure that we don't have cases like that again.
Right.
Okay.
So cases where deaths are investigated properly.
Yes.
So there's an extra level of scrutiny, right? On the deaths, not left just to the doctors, basically.
That's right. But most cases that we're talking about, say, for example, the 60% of the population in the country is elderly with comorbidities. So, they have known illnesses. So it's quite easy to establish a cause of death. Okay. So very rarely you would have suspicious deaths or homicide. And in those cases, it gets complicated. Police is involved, coroner is involved, and medical examiner is involved. In this case now, what the legislation says, that the medical examiner will be involved in all cases. At what level? That's what we need to understand. Secondly, because the data is quite transparent within the GP surgeries and the hospital anyway. So it should be quite easy to determine and establish cause of death. So this is what we need to really understand.
The ask from our community's perspective is, it's a bit late to actually challenge the legislation, right? Because it's downstream. It's already happened.
And it was obviously introduced by the Conservatives, right?
The challenge, I guess, right, is really how to make the implementation sensitive enough, right, so that it caters for the needs of the.
Can I just remind you that we have all sorts of legislations, but legislations all encourage to tailor make the arrangements to local levels and to and to local needs.
All right, we've got only 2 minutes left. We've got 2 minutes left. So my understanding is that all this kicks off in September.
Yeah.
So in a week's time. Is that right? So, just Saab, so what are the next steps from your perspective? अभी आपने council के साथ बात की है?
मैं अपनी कम्युनिटी से दरखास्त करूंगा
जी
क्योंकि FM के जरिए हमारे बहुत से बहन भाई हमारे इस प्रोग्राम के देख रहे हैं कि मैसेजेस को आम ना करें, लीव इन आवर हैंड. इंशाल्लाह हम पूरी कोशिश करेंगे कि हमारी तमाम महकमों के साथ एक मीटिंग हो जाए और इस मीटिंग में हम इसे अच्छे तरीके से हल कर लेंगे. अगर आप एक दूसरे को मैसेजेस करके इसको फैला देंगे तो फिर हमारे लिए मुश्किलात होगी.
मैसेजेस क्या मतलब कि
सोशल मीडिया पे जो सब चीजें जो हैं
negative messages.
नेगेटिव मैसेज आ रहे
ठीक है जी
हैं
जी
तो इसको भी जो है वो बहुत चेंजेस है लेकिन इट इज अंडर कंट्रोल और इंशाल्लाह हम पूरी कोशिश करेंगे जिस तरह पहले सहूलियात मुयस्सर हैं वो कंटिन्यूस रहें कुछ जो मुश्किलात हैं वो दूर हो जाएंगी लेकिन सोशल मीडिया पे अगर आप जा रहे हैं तो फिर इसके लिए जरा कम्युनिटी के अंदर जो है वो डिस्टर्बेंस पैदा
Councillor, do you concur with that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree, but I also would add that this need to go through proper scrutiny process within the council, where you have cross-party representation. At the same time, all the communities are invited.
Which you'll probably get, right? I mean,
it will get
you're
anyway.
on board, the Lib Dems,
absolutely.
sure
Everyone gets involved. So it needs proper scrutiny, and it needs endorsement, of course, by everyone else, and everyone then needs to be educated, of course.
Thank you very much for that. And Brian, last words with you. So how do you plan for the Jewish community to represent as well? Are you going to join the group here?
I would love to join the group.
Yeah.
I'd love there to be proper communication. I'd also just like to make the comment that I believe this has already been trialled for the last year in London and it's brought waiting times down.
Is that right?
Yes.
So maybe there's good things to come.
If it works well, it could simplify matters.
The key seems to be an ME on a 24/7 basis and quick access to the registrars via using technology. That's
Amazing.
the way forward.
Well, thank you so much for that. So let me go ahead and thank Councillor Mohammed Aslam Khan from the Conservatives. You've got Jishti Saab, MBE. Thank you for your time as well. And Brian Green, Chairman of the Luton Synagogue. Thank you, all three of you, for joining us today and sharing your point of view.
Thank you.
Thank you for amazing work. Thank you, everyone. We'll be right back after these messages. Don't go away.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
Staying safe in the summer on Inspire FM. Elderly must limit their physical activity during peak heat hours as they may feel drowsy. To remain cool, they can use a damp towel on their neck to help cool down.
A large and elegant wedding and events venue in the heart of Luton, catering for up to 1,200 guests, with a 5-star food hygiene rating, plenty of parking, bridal suite, family rooms and prayer facilities. Crescent Hall's the perfect venue for your wedding, events, parties and conferences. We have some great offers for summer. Contact us to find out more. Call 01582 723386. Email bookings@crescenthall.co.uk or search for us online and social media. Crescent Hall, Luton. Conditions apply.
Landlords, let us take away the hassle of letting your property. Our comprehensive services include tenant vetting, rent collection and service charges, maintenance and repairs. Ideal Properties has 2 branches and have been established over 20 years and have gained a wealth of knowledge and experience.
If you are thinking of selling or letting your property, then speak to a member of our knowledgeable team about a free, no-obligation market appraisal.
We can also offer guaranteed rental income.
Contact us on either Luton 721110 or 696050. Ideal Properties. Service with a smile, whatever your needs.
Back to school tips on Inspire FM. The summer has ended, so turn your attention to going back to school. As you're getting closer to the day you return to school, try to revise as much of the last year as possible in the limited amount of days you have left. Tune in to Inspire FM for more back to school tips.
AK Windows South Limited, manufacturers and installers of high-quality UPVC windows and doors, bifold doors, composite doors, conservatories, porches, skypods, fascias, guttering, and much, much more. We specialize in double glazing and triple glazing using the best German profile. If you want quality at affordable prices, AK Windows is the place to go. If your house needs a facelift, you know who to trust. For a free quote, call AK Windows today on 01582 483 777 or visit us at Unit 10E, Britannia Estate, Leagrave Road, Luton.
بسم الله. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الدعاء مخ الإبادة. That supplication is the essence of worship.
Did you know that over 361,000 children die every year due to lack of clean water? Clean water is not a luxury, but a basic human right. UKIM is working to end their suffering. By providing clean and safe water, make a difference. Provide clean and safe water with UKIM. For donations, call now or visit ukim.org.
बचपन से सुनते आए हैं ये नहीं कहना वो नहीं करना सवाल नहीं पूछना और फिर इसी रविश से हमारे ज़हनी और माशरती मसाइल उलझते चले गए हमारे मसाइल हमारे हालात से नहीं हमारे ख्यालात से पैदा होते हैं और ख्यालात दुरुस्त किए जा सकते हैं मैं हूं आज़ाद और अगर आप भी चाहते हैं कि हम सब आज़ाद हो सकें अपने ही पैदा किए हुए मसाइल से तो बात कीजिए क्योंकि अब बोल के लब आज़ाद हैं तेरे only on Inspire FM.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 7 o'clock.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to part 3 of tonight's edition of Friday Night Live with me, Abdul Akbar and Zafar Iqbal Saab. We're beaming out to the good people of Luton and surrounding areas tonight, and also to the good people of Sheffield, Nottingham, Derby and Peterborough through our partner stations across the nation. Welcome to everyone tuned in today. Wow, I don't know about you, but that conversation we just had with those 3 wonderful guests was amazing. Zafar Saab, your takeaways?
To be honest, I think that the team that we had around the table, they'll get some results. I think
They are the A team. I've got to say, between the councillor, Chishti Saab, and the Jewish community, I think we'll be okay.
Alhamdulillah. So we're working together. I was trying to get to a question, which is these things when they're debated in Parliament.
Yeah.
Why are MPs not engaging at that level, right? So when these things become law, the needs of individual needs of the community are taken into account. Maybe they have. I'm just assuming maybe they have. So at this stage, maybe it's the implementation one which is causing some concern.
But I forgot to ask them about the MPs as well. Like, have they approached the Luton MPs, and are they doing anything?
Absolutely. And why were some of these things picked up when the legislation was drafted? And whether there were any items added in there to reflect the needs of the individual communities in terms of specific needs that we've talked about today. And that's the thing really. It's like it's downstream. Now what we've got to do is we've got to make sure the implementation is sufficient enough, right? So that it achieves the objective of the legislation, which I think sounds like it's the right thing to do.
All right. You can stop rambling now. No, but I hear what you're saying.
I was giving you some time, right, to settle in. So.
Really, really clear. All right.
Are you flustered or are you settled in now?
No, I'm settled in. Thank you so much.
All right, off you go.
Oh my God, thank you very much. All right, we're going to go on to our third topic, which is also, I think, an amazing topic. And one of the guests I'm about to introduce sent me information about this. I think it was just over a week ago. And I was so amazed by this initiative that we had to talk about it on the program today and let all of our listeners across the UK from Sheffield, Nottingham, Derby, Peterborough, Midlands, and of course Luton and surrounding areas know some of the amazing work that's going on by way of a peace walk. It's called the Luton Peace Walk, but I don't know much about it apart from what I've been sent. But I'm going to let those who are organizing it tell us more about the importance of it and also allow us to learn more about it. And I'm delighted to welcome to the program today 2 very special guests. One is no stranger to this program. We've got Professor Zafar Khan Saab from the Luton Council of Faith. Assalamu alaikum, Zafar Saab.
Walaikum salam.
This is the other Zafar Saab, right? MashaAllah. And we've also joined by Brother Riyad, who's Head of Community Relations and Development for the Luton Council of Faiths. And he's got a wonderful background in health psychology and is also an accredited functional medicine health coach. So welcome, Brother Riyad.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. So, Brother Riyad, let me start off with you, if I may, which is you're the person I was talking about who sent me this amazing video. And I know, Zafar Khan Saab, you were actually on one of the videos as well. I think you were with somebody, if I remember. Brother Riyad, you tell us, how was the Luton Peace Walk inspired and what are you aiming to achieve? What is it?
The Luton Peace Walk's been 27 years now.
Oh, right.
27 years.
Yeah,
in Luton.
you just woke up today.
Oh my God!
So-
That's me thinking it's a brand new thing, but it was inspired recently by the events that happened, right? I think maybe.
I mean,
Maybe
what we're
not.
doing now,
Maybe not.
we're building towards the peace walk. I mean, every
Okay.
year it's like a
Okay.
whole year of work that we build towards a peace walk.
Okay.
So what we normally do, we go into schools first. So we have a number of faith leaders that you've just met earlier, and they go into schools actually, and they have that conversation with our young people, and they can ask any questions. But what we want them to see is that synergy, how they're working together. And it's not something that is socially engineered. As we say, that's 27 years now. And the work that we do in school has been 10 years.
Wow.
And these people have had relationship over those years. And the idea here is to show them, okay, how they're working together despite their differences. They don't agree with each other. You have Abrahamic faith, totally different on so many levels, but then how they can work together, how they can clean their street together. So all of that the kids can see, and they can have an anchor for the future. Wherever they move in the world, we want them to bring that understanding of peace, how we can live. I was hearing earlier, you were saying that you don't like the word tolerance, and that's what we don't want to hear about tolerance. We want to hear more about respect. And that respect is so key. And that's what we've been doing. So we build that throughout the year, we work in the community, and then we go towards the peace walk. And on that particular day, the idea is to visit a different place of worship. Like we will have, like this year, we're going to be in Lucy, and we're going to visit the Zakaria Masjid, and there's about 3 churches we are going as well. There's a Hindu temple as well there. And the idea is, if you've never been to a place of worship, if you feel like,
Where is that? Lucy Farm?
That's going to be Lucy Farm this year. We do it in different areas. I think last year we went to the Turkish community, the masjid there, so which was Farley Hill. So we move in different areas every year.
What's the reception like from the non-Muslim groups? Because some of the videos that you brother sent out, I think you were with a Hindu, Riyadh. I can't remember.
I was a Christian.
You're a Christian. Sorry, bad memory for all my sins. But you were the Christian. I think I saw a Hindu as well.
A Hindu was with Zafar Saab.
Yeah, Zafar Saab was with a Hindu. What's the reception like, Zafar Saab? Let me ask you, from the different faith groups, are they as invested as the enthusiasm that you brothers are showing?
At our level, at the level that we have been operating over the past 27 years, it's very positive. It's well informed, and it's also quite, if you like, involved. And I think considering the current climate or the recent climate, very recent,
with the far right riots.
Yeah. I mean,
I would call it far right terrorism, but people don't want to call it that. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, one has to be diplomatic about these things, and so I mean, there's a reason for that. And I think in Luton we are doing reasonably well, and we can't be complacent, and we will never be complacent. But I think that's a fact. But there is a tremendous amount of work and ingenuity involved over the years, and we have experienced certain things. For example, EDL is a product of Luton, and we have experienced this firsthand, and we have learned to actually engage and also meet the challenge. And over the years, we have and it is this across the faiths. And that has worked for us, and it is a template in many ways that we have evolved over the past almost 3 decades now.
MashaAllah. And Brother Riyadh, you talked about this happening for, as I mentioned, a number of decades. What do you aim for the impact to be? What are like the key results you're aiming for as a result of the Luton Peace Walk?
I think the idea of what you just said, respect, I think we've lost that over the years, and it's about how we build that from early childhood, but also to see what we really want to see, what young people want them to see is that how we crystallize that learning of respect, how they can see that in the community. It's not something that we just see in the curriculum, but it's something that they should be able to witness in the community. That's how you crystallize learning. So that's one, if you want to look at it as an outcome. Secondly is also, if you have a town where people are not comfortable with each other, it affects the economy of that town. So if you really need to be able to have a town where there is that cohesion, that level of coherence among people. Then it's a town where you can invest. People can come and invest in this town. People are happy. There's a level of happiness. So these are very, very important. Neighbors should be able to feel that their neighbors are like their best buddies in one sense. So there's all of that we are trying to build, and also to combat a lot of stereotypes. So, for example, somebody wearing a hijab, somebody wearing a putka, like in the Sikh community, or somebody wearing a kippah from the Jewish community. What does that mean? Does that mean that they're a threat to us? Does that mean they are, as a stranger, they're odd looking from our perspective?
That's what the EDL wants us to think, right?
Rather than as a child, if you grew up and seeing this, like when I grew in Mauritius, that's how life was. You know, it's normal.
I was trying to put a finger on that accent.
Yeah. So so it was always like that. You know, you hear the adhan and suddenly you hear the bell, and everybody knows how to respect each other. You wait when the moon is out. From if you're a Christian, I'm going to get a bank holiday tomorrow, you know, or we call it a public holiday there. Or you would wait, you know, when it's Christmas, when it's Diwali, because you're going to enjoy that, and your friend's going to bring cakes and stuff for you. So that's how we used to live, and that unity and diversity is rightly embedded at an age basically when you're born. So that's what we want. We want that a Luton which is comfortable with each other, and we want Luton to influence Europe. And it's been.
I like it.
And the idea here is we have the result we have had over the years. We have had Swedish people last year who came during Interfaith Week. They were gobsmacked when they saw what was going on in Luton, to the extent that when we had a debate with Israel and Palestine, and Brian was here earlier, and they could see that fiery debate that was going in the Council of Faith, and yet towards the end they were all chatting and talking to each other, and they were like
sharing tea,
and we're like, what's going on here? Are they not killing each other? And I said, we don't need to kill each other. What we need is we need to have an honest debate. We don't need to agree on everything, but yet that idea of respect and living together. And if we talk about democracy, we should be able to have that freedom of speech to be able to talk.
Thank you for that. And Zabasahab, like the skeptics out there might be thinking, well, Luton Peace Walk sounds very nice. It's been going for a long time, but really, shouldn't they be targeting directly those that this should be targeting, which are those far right extremists that we saw on the streets that have completely the wrong impression and idea of Islam and anything that's different from them, going to mosques and churches and gurdwaras and temples ain't going to change the game. We need to go into those towns where this hate is being incubated.
I think you do have a point.
And I'll go to the brothers as well for their reactions to that question as well.
The principle is the principle here, and I think, you know, it's also making a tall claim, right, that masjids and churches and etc. Do actually represent the wider community, and that's in some ways that is a claim. But there are people out there who are outside of the fold, right, outside the remit of the mosques, and this is where you are seeing this level of negativity towards other faiths. This is where you're seeing on social media and other platforms, which are not necessarily platforms within the realm of the church and the Gurdwara, and you know, I don't know whether you saw a video. I think there is a Sikh actually within the EDL who promotes anti-Muslim hatred, etc. Right, and the Sikh people from the Gurdwara have come out and have actually sort of said this is not what our belief is. Basically, our belief is about living together in peace, etc. So there is an element of, yes, the institutions that you talk about, they speak for a certain number of people, right? There are people on the outside. So the challenge really is to have to broaden this peace walk to make it so that it reverberates with a wider wider community or wider set of communities, basically.
Let me take that to Zafar Saab. Professor Zafar Saab, do you concur? Is that one of the things that needs to happen? Because in order to drive real change, because I know this isn't just a gesture, the Luton Peace Walk, you know, there's as Brother Riyadh mentioned, this is about connecting with people who are different, showing young people in schools, you know, there is a respect and not just a mere tolerance of people who are different to you. I think, couldn't it be argued that the biggest beneficiaries of something like this would be those who are rioting? And how does one take something so positive like this to them and their neighborhoods?
No, I think you're right. I mean, in our experience here in Luton, I mean, speak of Luton, over the years, the most, if you like, reactive or elements within these the sort of Luton, if you like, communities or communities were the extremist elements from the peace walk or the pilgrimage, as it was called initially for a couple of years, and then I think in middle it was called something else as well. And I think that the peace walk, the spectacle, every year around about end of September or something like that. It used to be in October once or twice, I think, of Muslims, of Christians, of Jews and Hindus and Sikhs and others, all the others, Baha'is and what have you. That in itself was a big challenge to extremists because people were together. So there was a very strong message. There is a strong message through this spectacle. And the fact that you are visiting on a single day, once a year, various religious places of worship. And so you are leaving a message in a particular place that you visit, and you are taking away a message from that place. And so then it percolates. And I think the man with ideas is Riyadh, and the idea of actually working with children at primary school level, and one always actually encouraged working at a higher level as well, high school and so on. But issue of resources, both physical as well as sort of financial resources, is a major issue. And the fact that we are just 2 point or 1 point something who are, apart from that, it's all voluntary work. And
it's amazing what you achieve.
And that I think works. I personally am very much for it. That it's the communities that need to be involved and engaged. And so a lot of work actually is voluntary work. But Riyadh and Johnny and one or two other people who are behind sort of a supportive role are invaluable asset, if you like.
Absolutely.
In that sense. And I think it's a slow and steady, but it has ruffled feathers, and it has put some people in their place over the years.
So
and
these
people have not been your sort of characters that you would want to sort of talk about in a positive way, and they come from not just one particular direction. They come from different directions.
That's interesting.
But we have stood up to that, and we continue to do that.
Let me go to Brother Riyadh, and I'll come to Sabah Sahab as well. Brother Riyadh, obviously one of the main organizers of the Luton Peace Walk. How do you, because it requires an act of volition from those participating in the walk, right? They have to turn up, they have to be engaged, they have to desire to want to learn more about other cultures, right? Churches, if you're a Muslim, or a mosque, if you're a non-Muslim, whatever it might be. How do you reach out and engage with people like the far right, or people who may be influenced by the far right, who are disgruntled, fear immigration, fear Muslims, fear you and I, fear the hijab, and who are basically being brainwashed by people like Tommy Robinson? How do you get those guys to join your peace walk and get them to come along?
Yeah, I mean, those guys on the peace walk, you don't want them. The reason for that is those who are doing it, they made an economy out of hate, and you're going to take their living out of them. So I think that's one thing we need to be aware of. They are doing it because we have had a conversation with Tommy Robinson, Tommy Robinson uncles, for example, who became a Buddhist afterwards, who changed his life completely. So we know the family on so many levels. We know uncles and the whole network, but he chose his path where he wanted to be, because
Tommy Robinson's getting paid for what he does. Someone's funding him for fueling the fans of hate, right? Yeah,
exactly. And at the same time, what you want also, I think you have a good point here. The do-gooders we always call, but you need to support them as well, because with time, it's like Iman. You need to keep rising that up. You need to keep the aspiration up that actually what I'm doing here, I'm contributing towards something bigger than me for the greater good of Luton, for the greater good of humanity. But the other thing as well is working right at the beginning with young minds really helps in that endeavor so that they can see that as not a problem. I mean, we are very surprised that now for the last 10 years, we have primary school children coming on a Saturday with their teachers and parents. I mean, never heard of. I mean, we don't hear that across the country. That's why we see that as a model that actually is working very well for us. What is capturing the imagination? And I think all of these people, they really want is peace. And for them to be able to display that is to come in force on a particular day and to show that, okay, we are here and we are trying to come and work towards peace. And I think a lot of schools in Luton, that's what they really want for their young people. And we are seeing some really good results.
Amazing. Zamzam?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, Zafar Sahib's actually pointed out that in the past, peace walks or whatever they used to be called previously have had attractive.
Zafar Sahib, can I move you to mic number 5 so we can actually hear you, because the quality of the mic that you're on is absolutely terrible. So we're just going to migrate Zafar Sahib across the studio here.
So confuse people, I'd be 2 Zafars in the same place.
Yeah, exactly. And you're actually on the camera now as well, which is probably not what you want, but it is what it is. Go on, Zafar, but the point you were making was...
The point I was trying to make
that's better.
Basically is that the peace walks had their critics previously, right? And the reason they've had the critics is because people perceive that we're trying to make everything the same, right? But in fact, it's actually talking about the fact that we can be different, but still have some commonality. That's what the peace walk is about. And the route to becoming confident in yourself, and then once you're confident in yourself, then you can express yourself, you can be at ease, and you can have that conversation at a level where you're not feeling threatened. And I think that's the key, basically, is that a lot of people are seeing others and they're feeling threatened because they see themselves as being different, and they feel that they'll be consumed by the other. Their lifestyle, their thoughts, their culture, their traditions are going to be consumed by the other. Whereas in reality, the people have to feel comfortable in who they are and be able to express themselves as who they are. And that leads to that different level of conversation to say, well, actually, I'm happy where I am. I'm happy with who I am. I understand you're different, right? But we can work together. And I think that's the end goal. That's where people need to get to. That's where people need to migrate to be able to have that level of. And I think, Brother Riaz talking about Mauritius, and Mauritius is a very mixed community there. And they've had many years, many decades, many centuries where people have lived together. And they've lived together with different identities, right? And that's the thing. You can be different and you can still say, well, actually, we share a commonality. That's a language, or we share a commonality in the sense that we eat the same food, right? Those type of things. So I think that's the key challenge to get across to the broader set of communities, better really, from my perspective.
Amazing. And Zafar Khan Sahib, do you concur with that? Do you agree with what Zafar was saying?
Yes, I think that is correct. I do, however, feel that people do feel threatened, and particularly in a society which is multi-faith and diverse. Usually the majority element or majority portion within society feels, or a minority within the majority feels threatened. It's happening in South Asia. It's happening in other parts of the world. And unfortunately, it has picked up in Britain over the past 20-odd years. But, to be frank with you, Britain has always had an element like that. In the 30s, for example, the black shirts, for them, the focus of opposition and focus of was the Jewish community in the East End of London, and so there's a whole history of what the how that struggle actually panned out and all that, and so in the 50s and so on and so forth, when you began to have visible minorities on the streets of Britain as an empire was always a diverse empire. Yeah. There were more black and brown people within the British Empire where the sun never set. then actually on these islands.
And also fought in the world wars as well.
Yeah, well, of course.
Yeah.
And who can deny that the soldiers from South Asia, which is the present day India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, in their hundreds of thousands in the First World War and the Second World War, and even in the Boer War, fought for the British Crown, and of course, in the 50s and 60s, you began to have the visible minorities arrive in Britain, and those came here as part of a process of push-pull factors in sort of economic migration and all that.
Yeah.
And so then this again rose up, the opposition to the other, and so on and so forth, and so it goes on, and the current 2-3 weeks ago that happened, it has many factors that were a kind of drivers.
I agree.
And
lots of things coming together.
Lots of things, and the new government, and the fact that there's an overwhelming majority with which the new government comes up,
and obviously the misinformation coming out, which sounds like from Pakistan now as well, from someone in Lahore. We need to leave it there, Professor Fakrans. I'm always a pleasure having you on the program and sharing your insights. We'll have you on again, inshallah, on this topic and more. But Brother Riyad, last words with you. When is the next Luton Peace Walk, and how can people join if they want to take part?
So that's going to be on the 21st of September. It's going to be exactly this time on the International Peace Day, which is the UN International Peace Day, the 21st of September. It's normally around that week, but this time it's exactly on that day. And we're going to be starting at Zakaria Masjid. So Dhuhr time will finish around 1:30 there, hopefully. And then 1:15 to 2, we're going to start at Zakaria Masjid. We're going to be inside, and then we're going to start the walk.
21st of September.
Yeah.
What day is that?
That's a Saturday.
So Saturday, the 21st of September, which is also the International Peace Day. And you're starting at Zakaria Masjid, which is in Lucy Farm?
Lucy Farm, yeah.
Amazing. And how long is the walk, roughly?
Well, it's going to be around 3 hours.
So not long.
Not long.
It's like a small portion of the afternoon.
Stroll and go to a place of worship.
Amazing.
Stroll to the place of worship.
Strongly recommend people join. I'm going to try my best to join as well and take part. But listeners, this has been Friday Night Live. Thank you, gents, for joining us. We'll be right back after these messages. Don't go away.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
We're taught that when you leave the house, you say, Bismillahi, tawakkaltu ala Allah. In the name of Allah, I lay my trust in Allah.
Do you have a legal problem? Are you trying to settle a family member? If so, then contact M&K Solicitors. M&K Solicitors are a leading local firm specializing in immigration, family, personal injury, clinical negligence, civil and property law. Our solicitors have over 20 years' experience and are recognized internationally. Our success rate speaks for itself. Take advantage of our free consultations for your first meeting. We also give free advice on Fridays, no appointment needed. That's right, free legal advice. M&K Solicitors. Call 01582 732 503.
Back to school tips on Inspire FM. For going back to school, get your intentions straight. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said in a Bukhari hadith, the reward of deeds depends upon the intentions, and every person will get the reward according to what he intended. So understand what you're going to school for. Tune in to Inspire FM for more back to school tips.
How many times have you needed urgent medical supplies but don't know where to go? At Harris Pharmacy, we take pride in delivering a high-level healthcare to our community. This is why we have services such as private one-to-one consultation, free prescription ordering from GP and delivery to your home, mobility aids such as providing wheelchairs and many other items for everyday use. Call us today on free phone 0800 458 2850 to discuss your medical needs. We are open from 9 a.m. till 7 p.m. Monday to Friday and 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. on Saturdays. Harris Pharmacy, 165 A-B, Dunstable Road, Luton.
Attention drivers. Need new tyres? Ranger Tyres has got you covered with our tyre fitting service. Plus, our mobile tyre fitting brings the shop to you. But that's not all. We offer MOTs, wheel alignments, vehicle servicing and repairs, TPMS diagnostics, and replacement batteries, exhausts, brakes, air conditioning regassing, and number plates. Call 0800 999 2123 or visit rangertyres.co.uk for bookings. Ranger Tyres, the one-stop shop for all your vehicle needs.
ग्रेस्टोन सॉलिसिटर्स जो कानूनी मामला को सुलझाने, आपका हक दिलवाने, आपको हर तरह का तहफ्फुज़ फराहम करने और बेहतरीन नताइज हासिल करने में मुखलसाना हर मुमकिन कोशिश करते हैं। मसला कोई भी हो, इमिग्रेशन, एम्प्लॉयमेंट, फैमिली लॉ, पर्सनल इंजरी, मेडिकल नेग्लिजेंस, सिविल लिटिगेशन एंड हाउसिंग, इमिग्रेशन मसाइल को सुलझाने के लिए ग्रेस्टोन सॉलिसिटर्स पेश कर रहे हैं फ्री इमिग्रेशन ड्रॉप इन क्लिनिक्स हर जुमे। टेलीफोन 01582 343 453, एड्रेस 275 Dunstable Road, Luton, LU4 8BS। कानूनी मसाइल में इंसाफ के लिए आपके हम सफर।
Losing a loved one, especially a mother or a father, could mean losing access to safety, education, and shelter. We here at Crisis Aid believe that children in the world deserve a better chance at life. Your small donation can influence a big change. Donate today. www.crisisaid.org.uk/orphan fund or call our donations line 0333 305 5000.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 7:30.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the fourth and final part of tonight's edition of Friday Night Live with me, Abdul Akbar, and Zafar Iqbal Saab. We're beaming out to the good people of Luton and surrounding areas tonight, and also to the good people of Sheffield, Nottingham, Derby, and Peterborough through our partner stations across the nation. So welcome to all of you, and I hope you're having a great start to your weekend and Friday evening. Of course, so far we've talked about the amazing GCSE results that seem to be only hitting Luton, but also the south, and then sadly less so positive results the further north you go from London, which seems quite disturbing. We had a wonderful chat with some wonderful guests, and also about an hour ago we talked to Councillor Mohammed Aslam Khan, Shishti Saab, MBE, and also Brian Green, who is from the Luton Synagogue, about a new rule that's come in that requires a medical examiner to basically sign off a death, which never used to happen before. And the concern is for people of the Islamic faith or the Jewish faith, where we are required to preferably bury our deceased within 24 hours of them passing, so that they can transition to the afterlife as soon as possible. That might not always be possible because of this new bit of red tape that people feel is now quote unquote in the way and could slow the process down. So it's a wait and see approach. I did like, Zafar Saab, the advice from Jishti Saab, which was, look, let the experts and the community leaders do the lobbying. They're on it, and we reckon they'll be able to solve it given the right representations, right? And a bit of time. What do you reckon?
I think so. I think that they will. I think, like I said, we had the A team there, basically, right? People who've been working in this particular area for quite some time. They know how to deal with things like that.
Yeah,
I'm sure. But I think there is a point in the sense that a lot of people who comment on social media tend to be people who are vocal, but not necessarily be able to translate those words into tangible, effective action plans, etc.
Yeah.
So there's some words to be said to about that as well. To say, let us get on with it. Don't interfere. You're just going to make it worse. I mean, fair point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, there's going to be some good things to come from that. And it's nice to see that there are different faith groups working together, namely those that are mostly affected by this change of a medical examiner needing to sign off the medical cause of death certificate. Before, it was just a case of a GP issuing the medical cause of death certificate, and that was it. You could go and, go and register the death at your local town hall or registry office, and, it would all go to plan. But now apparently there's another person involved that needs to sign off the actual medical cause of death certificate, which could, in theory, slow things down. And hopefully it doesn't get to that. If you do want to listen back to that part of tonight's program, listeners, you can listen back to Friday Night Live. Remember, by going onto the Inspire FM YouTube channel, clicking on the live tab, and you can actually listen back to Friday Night Live, but also a lot of the other wonderful content that we've got on the radio station as well, from all the other amazing presenters that we have as well. Lots of nice content coming out, and you can listen back to all of that content on the YouTube channel by typing in Inspire FM Luton in YouTube and clicking on the live tab and listening back to this program and also to other programs. But I do want to go on to another really important topic. And it's actually quite a sad topic, this one, but I really felt that we had to talk about it, because this is all about an issue and another event, sadly, albeit too often in this part of the world, where an exhausted female doctor, basically, check this out, an exhausted female doctor took a nap at work, and what happened next basically horrified a nation. And I would say didn't just horrify a nation, it horrified the world. And sadly, this happened in India.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And we've got a very special guest. We've got Ibn Ilyas on the line, who's a political analyst with a focus on India. And I believe, Assalamu alaikum, Ibn Ilyas, are you there?
Assalamu alaikum.
Thanks for joining us. And Ibn Ilyas, are you actually in India right now?
No, I'm not in India right now. I'm in UK at the moment.
Okay, no problem. So thanks for joining us.
But I've been following that are happening around here.
With the quality of the connection, it sounds like you're speaking to us from somewhere else. But
can you hear now?
Yeah, it's a bit better. We'll make it work. But Ibn Ilyas, tell us a bit about what happened in India just a few days ago, where I believe an exhausted female doctor took a nap at work. And what happened next? And why are so many people, especially medical professionals, including doctors, protesting? Like, what happened to this young lady?
Yeah, sure. As you have rightly said, let me tell you, this is an horrific incident that has happened with a doctor who was on duty and she was taking a break. And this has happened. Let me tell you, this has happened in the part of west of India, which is in West Bengal. It's in West Bengal. Calcutta, this incident has happened. So where this has got political connotations as well, because it's a non-BJP ruled state. I will come on to that in a bit. But whatever the incident was, it was a very horrific incident. It shouldn't have happened, anywhere, not only in India. It shouldn't have happened anywhere. But this is a sad reality. This has happened. The most shocking thing is there is an outrage on this thing, but there is no outrage on other sort of rapes that every day happen. I think on an average in India, 80 rapes takes place in India. By even one person, multiple gang rapes. The girls they've been raped, molested, and then their private parts destroyed, and then they are killed. So this happens throughout in India. On an average in India, these are the statistics and figures issued by the government of India. That around 80 to 85 girls or women get raped every day in India.
So just to clarify that, so you're saying, Ibn Ilyas, according to the statistics, around 80 to 85, I think I've read some statistics, around 90 women get raped in India every day. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Wow, that's horrific. I mean, what? And so this junior doctor, what actually happened? Because my understanding was that she was on a shift at a government hospital in the east of India, as you mentioned. She had a very long shift, and she went for a nap, right?
Right, correct.
And then according to her colleagues, she went into an empty seminar room.
Correct.
Which are basically used by on-duty doctors to just rest and relax and get their energy back.
Correct.
And then it appears that there she was basically brutally raped and murdered. I mean, this is shocking. I mean, I don't think anywhere in any other democracy around the world this would happen in this violent manner, and it seems to be happening more and more in India. I don't understand why. Why in India do they treat women in this way?
Let me tell you, there are some more horrific rape incidents that have happened in India recently. Some girls were gang raped in the cars. They were gang raped in the moving bus. So it's not like that. It's like a very safe place for. I mean, this shows the safety of women is not paramount in India. And there are and people are. I know many Muslims are having sympathy for this event. I mean, this should not have happened. But they are telling But very shallow sort of
just to be clear, just to be clear, this woman that was raped was not a Muslim. She was a Hindu, right?
Oh, no, she was a non-Muslim, correct?
Exactly. Correct. So, I mean, this is it's not actually an attack against a Muslim woman. This was this was like a local Hindu woman in quote unquote Hindustan, as they call it, and being attacked by her own Hindu population. That's what makes it even more horrific.
There was a comedian who was presenting a show in America, and he has famously said a few years back, India is a land where women are, prayed during the day and raped during the night.
Wow.
So, and all their goddesses are women, the goddess of education, the goddess of money. They have multiple goddesses in form of women, and then they pray them during the day. And at night, these sort of incidents happen with the woman, which is pathetic.
Yeah, it's quite disturbing.
It is not just about, man. This is about the liberal values that have been injected in the society. That's, I think, another factor. And there are no deterrents in the society in India. And recently, the laws have been changed so much, and the country has been liberally pushed to so many. Even though there is a right-wing government, but they have pushed liberal policies. I.e., other consensual sex is not an issue. Out of wedlock, a woman can have relationships. She can have multiple partners. I think there's a lot of the conservativeness of the Indian society has been eroded by the liberal values.
All right. Emilia, stay there because we're going to try and get a much better connection with you because I really want to get clear sound from you, and the connection quality we've had sounds like it's coming from that part of the world, even though you're in the UK. So I want to make sure we can clarify that. But Sab, your reactions here, and I don't want this to sound like we're kind of bashing India. I'm just calling out statistics and facts here, and also headline news, which is what we talk about on this program. And the current 1 million doctors, Fasab, 1 million doctors went to strike in India just over the last few days. Wow. 1 million. That's not a small number. On the back of this rape incident, as I mentioned, this wasn't a Muslim doctor, female doctor. This was a Hindu female doctor who was gang raped in this way. But it's not just one incident. There is somebody
happen regularly. I think I remember talking about this previously as well.
Your sounds,
previously as well, where there was a case where some students were raped on their way back from university in Delhi, etc. So it does seem as though, and also we talked about that Christian community, right, in Manipur in the east of India, where the section of the Christian community, a woman was raped and then paraded naked. So it does look like rape as a tool, as a weapon, seems to be an acceptable form. It didn't really actually have wasn't really taken as seriously as one would have expected from the authorities, that particular incident. So it seems like incidents like these are treated not necessarily as a crisis, but these are business as usual type of things. It's a crime, let's deal with it using normal sort of tools and techniques, basically, of investigation and dealing with that particular incident. I think what's probably needed more is a societal change in attitude towards women. Women traditionally in the subcontinent, I would say, and I include Muslims and non-Muslims and whatever is in the south, that particular region, were treated as in many ways as precious. right? Culturally precious, basically. We look after them, etc. But that seems to have upended recently. Maybe it's because social media is exposing these incidents more often than it used to be before. Maybe you just brushed under the carpet, etc. But it doesn't appear to me that the government and the authorities are treating it like an epidemic, as a serious case of societal sort of illness that it deserves to be treated as.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I fully agree. And I think the government data shows between 2017, this is the Indian government data, shows between 2017 and 2022, there were 189,000 reported rape cases in India. And more than 31,000 rapes of women or girls were reported just in 2022 alone. But the conviction rate remains very low, hovering between 27 and 28%. So in other words, 1 in 4 of those perpetrators get convicted, the rest get away.
And to think, right, this particular rape was horrific because it wasn't carried out by one person. It was multiple people.
Yeah, multiple people, but also in the confines of what you would argue is the safety of a hospital seminar room.
And so you have to ask the question, who were these people, right? And what was their common attachment? Was they a part of a gang? Were they hospital staff, right, who basically used as took an opportunity to sort of get their own way, etc. Or was it, and more likely, I don't have the evidence for this, but more likely groups of people who've been enthused in a particular way, by the right-wing government that's in place. They've got pockets of people everywhere, vigilante type people who are gangs, politically empowered. Perhaps it's one of those groups where
the caste system plays a part, maybe as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Those particular
this
people.
doctor may have been like from a lower caste.
Absolutely. And these people might have thought, well,
but it's rare for that to happen, because normally people who make it to the medical profession tend to be from a higher caste, because by virtue of being a doctor, you've grown up in a rich family.
I'm not quite sure whether the cultural boundaries are superseded by intellectual prowess or status from a professional perspective. Those barriers remain, and I've witnessed this person.
So in other words, it doesn't matter if you're a doctor, a judge, or whatever.
If you're from a low caste, right, and you'll be seen, not necessarily treated, but seen as a person of lower,
that overrides your status in your profession.
And I've seen in my workplace where I met people who are from different castes and how they perceive themselves and how they perceive others. And it's a sickness, to be honest, right? Because the fact that you fundamentally believe that your article of faith, right, says that you are superior because of the way you were born.
Yeah.
Or how you were born, who you were born to.
Yeah. Let me get Ibn Ilyas back on that, if I may. Ibn Ilyas, assalamu alaikum. Hopefully we got a better connection with you. So Ilyas, Jafar Sahab and I were just talking about how much of an influence the caste system plays. As we know, in India that's quite prevalent still, even though many modern Indians disregard it. It's still quite prevalent amongst many Indians. How much does that play a part in some of the rape violence that we're seeing against women in the way that we saw against this medical doctor?
I might not have a data on that exactly, but these sort of rape stuff, they have that caste sort of effect. Like the upper caste usually does these sort of crimes against the lower caste people, and then they molest them, they abuse them, they rape them, then they kill them. So it is there, and then what happens is that lower caste people find an opportunity, they try to take the revenge, and there are like stuff like that in India. So it is being used as a tool against women. Like whoever does that, it's completely wrong. It's not right. And plus, as I said, there are no enough veterans within the judicial system that in India. The thing is, the culprit gets the bail quickly, and he is not taken through the process. and very light punishments are given, maybe say 3 years punishment, not rigorous. And if he has an influence in the society, if he's backed by politicians, he's out. I mean, for an example, I'll give you a classic example. You can Google yourself. There was and Bilqis Bano, there was a case from Gujarat riots, right? She was raped, and her perpetrators were garlanded. Like the case ran for almost 20 years or 15 years. Recently, last year, that case got quashed. Said they don't have enough evidence, and they have been garlanded. The Hindu majority community, they garlanded the culprits. And the same was the case in the Kashmiri girl, she was an 8-year-old. She was abducted by the Hindus. She was taken to the temple, drugged, raped for 3 days, and then she was killed. And those people were let off and given bail in 1 day by the courts. Then they were garlanded. So what do you expect in a society where the culprits are garlanded by the women? And this is by the women activists of the party. They garland those people just because these are nationalist people who are coming from your own same party. These sort of incidents happen. You cannot expect a fair treatment of other women. So then what happens is all the women becomes target of this sort of mentality from the women.
Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's
I think we have to aid. We don't know the motive of this particular person, but we're just commenting generally on potential motives, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Ibn Al-Asab, let me thank you for your time and sharing your point of view, because we know you cover the Indian subcontinent in your line of work, and we appreciate you sharing your perspectives and what's going on. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome. Take care. Assalamu alaikum. So Zafar Sahab, of course, we've got a few minutes left of tonight's program. And I do want to make sure that everyone tuned in does listen back to the program if you missed it, because we talked about GCSE results, and we spoke to the Deputy CEO of the Chiltern Trust. We've also spoke to Al-Hikmah School. We also spoke to the head teacher of Cholni High School for Girls. And also we spoke to a senior leadership team member at Denby High School. I've got to say, some excellent work happening amongst the schools in Luton and some great attainment coming out from them. And we also talked about a number of other topics. Don't forget, if you want to listen back to any part of tonight's program, you can go onto YouTube, type in Inspire FM Luton and click on the live tab and click on Friday Night Live to listen back to this program. And of course, there's lots of other things coming out right now in terms of the news wire, where it is being reported that its energy bill is to rise by 10%. Just not what we need to hear, but it sounds like a typical household's annual energy bill will rise by £149 in October under the new price cap as we enter into winter as well. And that's all on the back of the fact that the new government has also announced it will halt winter fuel payments for 10 million pensioners in England and Wales as well, because they don't meet the criteria to receive the payment. Before, I think this is probably a good thing. If you were a pensioner, no matter how wealthy you were, you would get the winter fuel payment. And the idea now is that it's means tested. So if you actually need the money, you'll get it, versus just some extra pocket money if you don't. So that's probably a good thing.
Well, I think you said it on paper is a good thing, right? But actually, delivery costs are the thing. When you talk about means testing, that means somebody or some process has to do the means testing.
That costs money.
And that costs money. Sometimes it's easier to roll out to everybody to say, right, fine, we'll give it to everybody. It's cheaper that way.
That's probably why they did it initially.
That's probably why they did it, right?
Yeah.
But so unless they've got a way of vetting people and making sure that they've got criteria, then a system can automatically sort of figure out based on information that's there to reduce the amount of manual intervention that takes place. Then I think it's so. Yeah, I mean that's the key thing. Sometimes a lot of these things cost more, so they are available universally. Not that rich people would benefit from £100 or whatever in that great way, to be honest. But I guess you could claim it as a victory because you've saved some money, but the hidden cost of trying to dilute to actually get that money is never mentioned.
Absolutely. Definitely, that's something to keep in mind. We've only got a couple of minutes left on tonight's program. But of course, Zafar Sahab, you must have heard about the British tech entrepreneur Mike Lynch and his daughter Hannah were on this boat off the coast of Italy, Sicily.
I heard.
And that sank, and obviously they digged out their bodies. They found their bodies on the seabed in that $50 million yacht. I find it very strange how this yacht was the only yacht in the vicinity to have experienced a freak tornado, and all the other yachts were totally fine. It's very strange. What's also very strange is that Mike Lynch went through a recent, few $100 million worth of court case in the US, which he won recently against Hewlett Packard.
I heard the story. That's
right. And his co-partner as well, who also won as a defendant, believe it or not, died a couple of weeks ago in a road traffic accident. One who is a conspiracy theorist may deduce that there are unusually connected these deaths.
Join the dots, basically, that type of thing.
Yeah, so it's very strange how this man, Mike Lynch, died in this freak boat accident, and his partner in business, they founded a company called Autonomy, which they sold on to HP, and then HP basically sued them, saying, yeah, you guys falsified some of the numbers, and you hyped it up, and you made it more valuable than it was. And they actually won that court case in New York a few months ago, and actually won substantial damages as well. So people who are speculating that the fact that both of these people who died won that court case seems a bit too good to be true in terms of coincidence.
Indeed. I've come across a situation, right, where that type of a legal arrangement between two companies, I won't say which two companies there are, and those things carried on for many, many years.
Yeah.
And the company who was a supplier to this other company, software supplier to the company, stood to lose billions. And then the judge who's hearing the case, has some sort of an accident and disappears, or he's fallen ill or whatever. And then before you know it, right, there's offline discussions and the settlements takes place and all of that type of thing.
Scary stuff. Anyway, we've reached the end of tonight's program, but let me go ahead and thank all our guests. And Zarsab, Jazakallah khair for joining us once again, everyone. And we'll be right back next week for another edition of Friday Night Live. Until then, Assalamu alaikum.